Some secrets are too explosive for Hollywood to handle. For nearly 4 decades, one mystery has torn through the music industry like wildfire, dividing fans, destroying relationships, and leaving two of music's biggest stars at war over the truth. The question that refuses to die. Did Janet Jackson secretly give birth to James DeBarge's child in the 1980s, only to be forced into giving up her own baby to protect her skyrocketing career? This isn't just another celebrity rumor. This is the story that has everything: forbidden love, family betrayal, addiction, and a cover-up so massive it reaches the highest levels of the entertainment world. And now, after decades of silence, James DeBarge himself has finally broken his silence with a confession that changes everything we thought we knew about America's pop princess. The whispers started in 1984 and have never stopped. They've survived lawsuits, denials, and decades of carefully orchestrated public relations campaigns. They've outlasted marriages, careers, and even some of the people who were there when it all began. But most importantly, they've refused to die because the evidence keeps mounting, the testimonies keep coming, and the truth keeps trying to surface no matter how deep it's been buried. The year was 1984, and Janet Jackson was just 18 years old when she made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. She wasn't just any teenager, she was a Jackson, part of the most famous family in music history, living under the iron-fisted control of her father, Joe Jackson, a man who treated his children's careers like military operations. Every move was calculated, every relationship scrutinized, every decision filtered through the lens of what would make the family more money. Joe Jackson's reputation for control was legendary in the music industry. He was known to have spies watching his children's every move, to intercept their mail, monitor their phone calls, and even dictate who they could befriend. For Janet, the youngest and most rebellious of his children, this suffocating control had become unbearable. She was desperate for any form of freedom, any escape from the prison of fame her father had constructed around her. But Janet was rebelling in the most dangerous way possible. While her brothers dominated the charts and her father counted the profits, she was falling hard for James DeBarge, the smooth-talking R&B singer from the legendary DeBarge family. James wasn't just any love interest. He was dangerous in all the ways that mattered to a teenage girl desperate for freedom. He represented everything Joe Jackson despised: unpredictability, passion, and most terrifyingly, the potential to derail his carefully laid plans for Janet's solo career. The DeBarge family was musical royalty in their own right, but they were also notorious for their struggles with addiction and personal demons. James, despite his incredible talent and devastating good looks, was already showing signs of the substance abuse problems that would eventually destroy his career and his relationship with Janet. But to an 18-year-old girl trapped in a golden cage, James's dangerous edge only made him more appealing. The romance moved at lightning speed, fueled by teenage passion and mutual rebellion against their controlling families. Secret meetings, stolen kisses, and whispered promises of escape dominated their courtship. Within months, they had made the ultimate act of defiance, a secret marriage that sent shockwaves through both families and set the stage for one of the most explosive scandals in entertainment history. The problems started almost immediately. James DeBarge wasn't just a talented musician, he was a man spiraling into the depths of addiction, battling demons that would eventually destroy everything he touched. The cocaine, the missed studio sessions, the erratic behavior, it all painted a picture of a marriage doomed from the start. Janet, barely out of her teens, found herself trying to save a man who didn't want to be saved, all while her family watched with a mixture of fury and cold satisfaction. They had predicted this disaster from the beginning, and now they were preparing to clean up the mess in the most ruthless way possible. But the real drama began in 1984, while Janet was filming the hit TV show Fame. Cast members started noticing dramatic changes in the young star that would spark rumors lasting 4 decades. Janet's weight began fluctuating in ways that had everyone on set talking. She'd gained weight suddenly, dramatically, in a way that didn't match her usual fitness routine or eating habits. The transformation was so obvious that even casual observers couldn't miss it. Janet, who had always been petite and fitness conscious, suddenly looked completely different. Her face had rounded out, her body had changed in specific ways, and most tellingly, she began wearing increasingly loose clothing that seemed designed to hide rather than flatter her changing figure. The official explanation was simple: birth control pills. Janet claimed she'd started taking them and experienced the common side effect of weight gain. It was a perfectly reasonable explanation that should have ended the speculation. Instead, it ignited a firestorm that would burn for decades. Debbie Allen, the powerhouse director of Fame, later revealed that she noticed significant changes in Janet's appearance and behavior during the fourth season. Allen, who had worked with countless young actresses over the years, recognized the signs immediately. This wasn't typical weight gain. This was something else entirely. The cast members weren't buying Janet's birth control explanation either. They'd worked with her for months, watching her maintain a disciplined fitness routine and healthy eating habits. Suddenly, she was claiming that hormone-based contraceptives had caused such a dramatic physical change that she looked completely different. The timeline didn't add up, and the pattern of weight gain didn't match what anyone had seen with typical medication side effects. The smoking gun came when several crew members claimed they witnessed Janet having what appeared to be morning sickness. Multiple sources reported seeing her rush to the bathroom during early morning shooting schedules, returning pale and shaky in ways that perfectly matched pregnancy symptoms. When confronted, Janet would brush off these incidents as food poisoning or stress, but the frequency and timing told a different story. Even more explosive were the claims from makeup artists and wardrobe personnel who worked closely with Janet during this period. They reported that her measurements were changing in ways that didn't match typical weight gain patterns. Her bust size increased dramatically. Her waist expanded in a specific way that suggested something other than general weight gain. And most importantly, the changes followed a progression that aligned perfectly with pregnancy development. The wardrobe team found themselves constantly having to adjust Janet's costumes, letting out seams and redesigning outfits to accommodate her changing body. But the changes weren't random. They followed a very specific pattern that anyone who had worked with pregnant actresses would recognize immediately. Makeup artists reported having to use different techniques to address changes in Janet's complexion, the puffiness around her eyes, and the way her features seemed to soften in ways that typically indicated hormonal changes far beyond what birth control pills could cause. Perhaps most damning was the testimony of James DeBarge himself, who was frequently spotted on the Fame set during this period. Multiple witnesses reported seeing him being unusually protective of Janet, constantly checking on her welfare and seeming unusually concerned about her health. This wasn't typical behavior for the usually self-absorbed young musician, and it suggested he knew something about Janet's condition that the public didn't. James DeBarge's explosive confession. For over 30 years, James DeBarge carried a secret that ate at his soul. While Janet Jackson built an empire on carefully crafted denials and strategic silence, James lived with the weight of knowing what really happened during those turbulent months in 1984. The addiction that had destroyed his marriage had also made him an unreliable witness to his own life, allowing others to manipulate his memories and gaslight him into questioning his own experiences. But in 2016, the dam finally burst in the most unexpected way possible. The moment that changed everything happened on camera during an episode of WeTV's Growing Up Hip Hop. James was sitting with his daughter Christina when she confronted him about the persistent rumors that had followed their family for decades. What happened next would send shockwaves through the entertainment world. Christina didn't hold back. She looked her father directly in the eyes and demanded the truth about the Janet Jackson baby rumors that had haunted their family for years. For a moment, James sat in stunned silence, the weight of 3 decades of secrecy visible on his face. The cameras captured every emotion, the pain, the fear, the exhaustion of carrying such a massive secret for so long. "I'm tired of the secrecy," James said, his voice cracking with years of suppressed pain. "I'm tired of the truth not coming forward and people being a coward when it comes to it. And I thought it was wise for me to speak out now because it needs to be addressed." But what came next was even more explosive. When Christina pressed him for a direct answer, James delivered the bombshell that would resurrect the biggest scandal in music history. "To be honest with you, I didn't know. I was under the impression that there was no baby, and I wanted to believe it's not true. But it is." The confession hit the entertainment world like a nuclear bomb. Here was James DeBarge, after 30-plus years of silence, finally admitting what millions of fans had suspected all along. But his words revealed something even more heartbreaking. He claimed he hadn't known about the baby's existence for decades, suggesting a cover-up so complete that it had kept the child's existence hidden from its own father. The implications were staggering. If James was telling the truth, it meant that Janet Jackson and her family had orchestrated a deception so thorough that they had managed to keep a baby's existence hidden from its own father for over 30 years. It suggested a level of manipulation and control that went beyond typical Hollywood scandal and into the realm of psychological warfare. James's confession also revealed the depth of his own trauma. He described years of being told by various family members and intermediaries that there had never been a baby, that the pregnancy rumors were just malicious gossip designed to hurt Janet's career. He'd been made to believe that his own memories of Janet's pregnancy were drug-induced delusions, causing him to question his own sanity for decades. The psychological manipulation was apparently so effective that James began to doubt his own experiences. He questioned whether he'd actually seen Janet pregnant, whether the intimate moments they'd shared about their future child had been real or imagined. The gaslighting was so complete that he'd spent decades believing he was losing his mind, rather than accepting that he'd been systematically lied to by everyone around him. James DeBarge's confession opened the floodgates to a conspiracy so twisted, it reads like a Hollywood thriller. The allegations that emerged painted a picture of the Jackson family as ruthless manipulators who would stop at nothing to preserve their carefully constructed image. According to multiple sources close to the situation, Janet's pregnancy in 1984 sent Joe Jackson into a rage that would have devastating consequences for everyone involved. The family patriarch reportedly saw the pregnancy as a direct threat to Janet's burgeoning solo career and the millions of dollars in potential earnings it represented. Janet was on the verge of breaking out as a solo artist, with her Control album already in development. A teenage pregnancy and baby scandal would have destroyed those plans and cost the family fortune in lost revenue. The cover-up allegedly began immediately. Sources claimed that Janet was essentially placed under house arrest, hidden away from public view while the family orchestrated one of the most elaborate deceptions in entertainment history. She was reportedly moved between different Jackson family properties, kept away from friends, media, and most importantly, from James DeBarge himself. The isolation was so complete that even close family friends began to question Janet's whereabouts during crucial months of 1984 and early 1985. Official explanations varied. She was said to be focusing on her music, dealing with the stress of her failing marriage, or simply taking a break from the spotlight. But insiders knew something more sinister was happening behind the scenes. But the most explosive allegation was what happened to the baby after its birth. Multiple sources have claimed that Janet was forced to give up her child immediately after delivery, with the baby allegedly being placed with one of her siblings to raise as their own. The most persistent rumors suggested that either Janet's sister Rebby or her brother Jackie had taken custody of the child, allowing it to grow up within the Jackson family circle while maintaining the fiction that Janet had never been pregnant. The psychological pressure on Janet during this period was reportedly immense. She was allegedly told that keeping the baby would destroy not just her career, but the entire Jackson family legacy. Joe Jackson reportedly used every tool of manipulation at his disposal: guilt, fear, financial threats, and emotional blackmail to convince his teenage daughter that giving up her child was the only option that made sense. The story took an even more dramatic turn in 2017 when a woman named Tiffany White stepped forward with claims that would rock the entertainment world. White, then 31 years old, publicly declared that she was the secret daughter of Janet Jackson and James DeBarge, and she had DNA evidence to prove it. White's claims were specific and devastating. She alleged that she had been raised by relatives who had told her the truth about her parentage, complete with documentation and photographs that seemed to support her story. Most importantly, she claimed to have medical records and birth certificates that would prove her connection to both Janet and James. The resemblance between White and both alleged parents was striking enough that even skeptics began to take notice. But White's emergence also revealed the darker side of the alleged cover-up. She claimed that she had been deliberately kept away from both Janet and James throughout her childhood, told that revealing her true parentage would destroy multiple lives and careers. The psychological damage of growing up knowing that her famous parents had essentially abandoned her was evident in every interview she gave. The legal implications were staggering. If White's claims were true, it would mean that Janet Jackson and the Jackson family had committed fraud on a massive scale, potentially involving falsified documents, perjury, and conspiracy to hide a child's true parentage. The statute of limitations on many potential crimes had expired, but the civil implications could still be enormous. James DeBarge's reaction to White's claims was telling. Rather than dismissing her as another opportunist seeking fame, he expressed genuine interest in meeting her and potentially taking a DNA test to determine the truth. His willingness to undergo genetic testing suggested that he believed there was at least a possibility that White was telling the truth about being his daughter. In 2022, Janet Jackson finally decided she'd had enough. After decades of whispered rumors, explosive confessions, and DNA test demands, the pop icon made the decision to address the controversy head-on in her self-titled documentary. But her response would prove to be just as controversial as the original allegations, raising more questions than it answered and dividing fans in ways that continue to this day. The documentary moment was carefully orchestrated, with Janet speaking directly to the camera in a controlled environment where she could tell her version of events without interruption. Her words were measured, deliberate, and designed to end the speculation once and for all. "I could never keep a child away from James. How could I keep a child from their father? I could never do that. That's not right." But for many observers, Janet's denial felt scripted and rehearsed, rather than spontaneous and genuine. Body language experts who analyzed her documentary appearance noted several concerning elements: the way she avoided direct eye contact when making her denial, the slight tremor in her voice when discussing the topic, and, most tellingly, her choice to frame the denial around what she could never do rather than what she never did. The timing of Janet's documentary response was also suspicious to many. Why wait until 2022 to address rumors that had been circulating since the 1980s? Why choose to speak out only after James DeBarge's confession had reignited public interest in the story? Critics argued that Janet's response felt more like damage control than genuine truth-telling, especially given the decades of silence that had preceded it. Even more damaging was what Janet didn't say in her documentary. She never directly addressed the specific claims made by Tiffany White, never acknowledged the timeline evidence that seemed to support the pregnancy rumors, and never explained why so many people who worked with her in 1984 had reported witnessing what appeared to be pregnancy symptoms. The selective nature of her denial left many questions unanswered and actually fueled more speculation. The documentary also revealed the deep emotional toll that decades of rumors had taken on Janet. She appeared genuinely hurt by the allegations, particularly the suggestion that she could be capable of keeping a child away from its father, but her emotional response also seemed to confirm that the rumors had hit close to home in ways that a completely fabricated story might not have. James DeBarge's reaction to Janet's documentary was perhaps the most telling response of all. Rather than backing down or retracting his previous statements, he doubled down on his claims, suggesting that Janet's denial was evidence of the very cover-up he had been exposing. His refusal to be silenced by her documentary appearance indicated that he believed his version of events was the truth, regardless of what Janet claimed publicly. The war between Janet Jackson and James DeBarge represents more than just a celebrity scandal. It's a story about the human cost of fame, family control, and the lengths people will go to protect their secrets. Whether you believe Janet's denials or James's confessions, one thing is undeniable. This controversy has left deep scars on everyone involved. The allegations paint a picture of a young woman forced to choose between motherhood and career, manipulated by powerful family members who valued money over her happiness. If true, it represents one of the most heartbreaking examples of how the entertainment industry can destroy lives in pursuit of profit. But the mystery continues to evolve. With new claims emerging regularly, and both sides refusing to back down, the question of Janet Jackson's alleged secret baby remains one of Hollywood's most enduring controversies. The truth may be buried in sealed documents, hidden in family secrets, or locked away in the memories of those who witnessed it firsthand. What we do know is that this story has already changed the way we look at celebrity culture, family loyalty, and the price of fame. It serves as a reminder that behind the glitz and glamour of Hollywood lie real people with real pain, real secrets, and real consequences for the choices they make. The decades-long battle between Janet Jackson and James DeBarge may never reach a definitive conclusion. But as long as questions remain unanswered and secrets stay buried, this explosive controversy will continue to captivate and divide fans around the world. The truth, whatever it may be, remains as elusive as ever. Trapped somewhere between denial and confession, between family loyalty and personal truth, between the public image and the private reality of two lives, forever changed by a secret that refuses to stay buried. What do you think really happened? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Team Janet or Team James?